Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Good morning, Pete.
Good?
Good morning.
Friday.
Morning.
It's a little cold out there, but looks like it's going to be a good weekend. Anyone got any major plans?
No.
Oh, look who's sitting right in the middle this morning. It's Ahimsa, right in the middle.
Am I in the middle?
You're a square in the middle. You're right next to Eric in the middle. That's so cool. And then you have Charlene on one side and Eric has, I think it's probably Whitney on the other side in the middle.
Oh, I better
So-
comb my hair then.
Yeah,
Well, that's what it's gonna do.
I know. It's all good. It's all good. Anyone have anything interesting with any potential buyers or sellers this week? Anything come up that maybe you weren't expecting?
Well, I have a developer who actually develops a lot of home in the East Coast in Florida, who just came here to Los Angeles and looking for a lot in Beverly Hills or Santa Monica to develop. He's looking for a land with a plan, so he can just start buying it and then develop a single family home. So hopefully that will come through.
Okay,
Good.
okay, good. You know what? Just get the dialogue going, because you never know. Somebody might turn around and just say, I'm not going to do anything to June, and they're driving around, and the next thing you know, they're going to hit you up and say, oh my God, I just found something that we absolutely love. We drove by it, and it's amazing. It's exactly what we wanted. So, always try and put thoughts in their head. And even if you're just, playing on the MLS as you're trying to get used to it, if you see something, I recommend that you role play on your own and come up with different scenarios, whether it's for a home or a condo, or if they're looking for new construction, obviously you can punch in 2020 plus on the year it's built, and that way everything comes up brand new. So, okay, let's jump on in because we're on session number 10. So we're in the home stretch. This will put us 80% into it. So now we're really talking about engaging where you're negotiating. Okay, you've written your offer, and now you're going to get into some give and take action. So again, you've got the two principals, the buyer and the seller.
Yeah.
And then there's yourself, whether you're representing the seller or the buyer, and the other agent.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you don't have to go for a home run every time you're trying to negotiate. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you really can work hard to negotiate for the best interest of your client. And sometimes that doesn't mean to go for this proverbial kill or to crush, because when you do that, you might just push the envelope too far. Okay. But you do have a fiduciary to negotiate in good faith. And by that, I mean, you've got to also consider the other side of the matter. And, a lot of times when I get frustrated in negotiating or trying to do a deal, it's one of my favorite lines is, look, there's also, if I'm representing the buyer, I will say, look, there's another side to the deal. And you have to be cognizant of that and make sure that you understand that the other person on the other side, no matter how difficult they're being or how easy, but they're human. And like we talked about 2 sessions ago, you really have to humanize the deal. And you're going to find that sometimes the other agent doesn't care. And you have to always remind them of that. It takes 2 principles to close a deal. Okay, don't make the deal about you and the other agent, because the moment you do that, you're going to put yourself in the middle, and that's where the other agent or your agent's ego is going to get in the way. So, that old expression, check your ego at the door, continue to do that. Okay, keep your eye on the prize for where you want to make sure that you're going to end up in doing it. One of the things I always like to say is singles and doubles are great. Singles and doubles are great. You don't have to hit a home run all the time. Okay, don't feel like you have to go and get everything. And even though your client's saying, you know, I want this or we're not going to do it, that's bullshit. Everyone will find some space to be able to do it. It's very, very rare that you know, you'll run into somebody and say, take it or leave it, especially when you're first starting out. Okay. That difficult deal I just completed, you know, my seller kept saying, I have to net 500,000. I have to. And, you know, maybe you and the other agent need to kick in some of your commission. Well, we both said no. So I want you to always keep that in mind, that, you know, when it was all said and done, my client settled and netted $496,820. So it was close, but, you know, like I said to him after the deal closed, because he was such a jerk about everything, I said, well, you almost got your 500. You know, but remember, keep moving forward so that you're doing that. So when you're negotiating, don't be emotional. Don't start snapping, which I have a tendency to do. It's just, you know, you get emotionally wrapped up in the deal. And you remember, your client's looking for you to stay on an even keel. Okay. So if you're the one doing this, they're definitely going to be doing that. So you know, above all else, be the grown-up. Be the professional in the room. Make sure that you try and really understand what they're doing. You know, find out with your client when you've written, if you're representing the buyer, find out what's most important to them. Is it the price? Yeah, most of the time it is. But is it the contingencies? Is it the escrow period? If you've asked for things in the offer, what's really important? What's part of the A game? Okay, and what can they live without? If you're representing the seller, no doubt about it, most of the time it's the price. We've talked about that all the way. But what else can, if you're representing a seller, what else do you think they potentially will move off of? You know, not a penny less than $789. Okay, well, you know, what else can we do? You know, I want to just get out of here. Well, are you willing to do a 45-day escrow? Are you willing to give them maybe a little bit longer contingencies to get it done? Okay, the number one goal when you've submitted that offer is what?
To close escrow.
I'm sorry?
To close
Get an
escrow.
acceptance.
To get that, before you can close, you have to get it accepted. So I don't know who said that, but that was the right line. You've got to get the offer or counter accepted, okay? And this is where you and the other agent, regardless what side you're on, are driving to. You can't close a deal if you don't have a deal. So getting that offer accepted or counter offer or the negotiation, you've got to get to that, okay? Also, control what you say. The more you flap your gums, and a lot of times, I'll be honest, new agent syndrome, as I like to call it, is nervous energy. They'll talk and talk and talk, and sometimes you'll almost talk too much. You know, you're so happy that you've gotten taken to the dance that you haven't gotten there yet. You haven't gotten on the dance floor because, you know, we tend to talk a lot. We think that the more we talk, we can talk ourselves or the other side into it. You got to be, I'm not a card player, but you have to be a good poker. You got to show a poker face. Don't just say right off the bottom, this is the best we can do. Okay, because then the other side is immediately going to say to you, well, if this is it, it's not going to work. So just say, look, here's where we're at. Let's continue move forward. Here's a great line to use. I believe there's a deal to be put in place here. There's a deal, or I believe there's a deal to be had. Well, why do you say that? And then give your reasons. Look, my client's highly motivated. He's very determined. I think you and I are getting along great, and that's half the battle. See how I've just personalized and humanized me and the other agent? You know, we've had great dialogue. We've both been transparent and forthcoming with each other. And I think that's really important. So be careful what you're saying, because the more you say, the more you're going to lose your leverage as you're negotiating and going forward. Okay? Keep referring back to that motivation. Keep talking about how you want to get the deal done. Okay. Don't be one of those agents to say, well, you know, this is the best we can do. We have 6 other offers out there. If not this one, we'll get the next one. Okay. That's just wasting space to me. That's somebody who's just out there trolling and moving along. You know, if it's a flip situation, like I said, I always put in the MLS, no blind offers accepted. And sometimes even, you know, especially if I get into a multiple situation, I will ask a simple question. So what's your client love most about the house? Especially if I'm representing the seller, I want to just test the buyer's agent on what they noticed about the house the best. Because I want to make sure that they've really taken note of it. So probing, talking, engaging are huge parts of the conversation that you really have to get back into, because it's all part of the motivation factor. All right. I want you to be able to do that. Know when to stop talking. Okay. Listen more than talk. I always go back to when I ran that radio commercial years ago. And it was highly successful. Okay. And during it, part of the towards the end of the 60-second spot, what makes the partner so successful? They listen. And then there was like a 3-second pause. Can you imagine that? A real estate agent that listens. The more you listen, the more the other side will tell you what it's going to take. So when you know when to stop talking and you take that break, let the other side jump back in and engage, because they'll want to talk then to stress themselves. Remember, people love to talk about themselves as much as more than they love to talk about their client. And maybe they'll tell you sometimes, you know, my guy's not easy. He's difficult. He's really, really dug in on what he wants for a price. Now there's the first light bulb. The guy wants his price. You know, well, my guy's, you know, he's a good guy. He's flexible. He, you know, he wants to work. He's impressed with your offer. So you want to be able to look at that, okay, and then say, how do I take it from there? Because you can't dig in and say, this is it, okay? If you're in a counter situation, then maybe you can say, this is the best we're going to be able to do. Now you pivot. Do you think you can make this happen? Now, a good agent in negotiating will tell you and say, God, we're so close. We're so good on your contingencies, but I think we're $5,000 off. So what do? You go back to your client and say, for the whole $5,000? Or do you pivot back and say, look, do you think we can split that last 5? And I don't mean your commission. Maybe that's where you say, do you think you can get your client to come up 2,500 or down 2,500 if we come up 2,500? There's got to be some give and take, guys, where that you're not just locked into. You're just not locked into this, take it or leave it. Okay? You really want to be able to look forward to saying, I'm a deal maker, not a deal breaker. And you find too many times where people will say, take it or leave it, or do your best. I don't know. You know, I'm not the principal. I hate those kind of agents, by the way, because they're the ones that are just, they're so matter of fact that you got to get somebody that find a way to get them to work with you. Look, I really want to make this work. My client loves it. Your seller seems, you know, they met and that's a good thing. If the principals sometimes meet while you're showing, maybe the first or second time, if they get a good vibe, that other agent should be able to say, you know what, my client really likes your client. And he's hoping they're the ones that are going to be moving in here. Okay, so try and, again, humanize the element. So let's talk about the negotiation. Okay, I'll give you the first one, obviously price. Price above all else starts with the offer and with where the seller's head's at. It's you know, that's where the sellers always look on how they're going about it. What else are we going to be talking about negotiating on? Who wants to take a shot? Most of you people are muted, by the way, so if y'all want to unmute, Go for it.
Contingencies?
I'm sorry?
Contingencies? Would that be
Okay.
one?
So you want to give me, Diego, just in case some of us don't really know, give me a contingency or two.
Oh, man.
Oh, sure, it's easy to say contingency.
Time of escrow.
Okay, so well, that's a
But
closing date. Let's back up. So does
okay.
everyone understand what contingencies are?
Yes.
Okay, so we know in contingent, and does anyone want to help Diego out on what a potential contingency could be?
Loan contingency.
Okay, so you have a loan contingency. The contract, I think, starts out where it's 21 days for a loan. Most sellers want a shorter loan contingency. Why?
To find out if the
Because they
person has
want
Because
it-
if you have a 30-day escrow and 21 days, and then if they get to day 20 and figure out they can't get a loan, you're into it pretty far, and then you're not going to have a deal. So you want to shorten up contingencies. Besides loan, what else is a contingency or a potential contingency?
Closing costs? No,
No, closing costs aren't a contingency.
Um,
Appraisal?
Inspection.
Inspection contingencies, okay? Now, let's talk about that. So you've written in, your clients looked at a 50-year-old house, and to make the deal look really good, they put in 10 days for inspections. And they do their home inspection, the physical one, 5 days into the deal, and find that there are other issues, whether it be the roof, the sewer, mold, and the mold guy can't come out until day 12 of the deal. How do you handle that? Because you've only got a 10-day inspection contingency.
uh-huh.
Do you just not do the mold inspection then and say, screw it, we'll move on from it?
Or you
No,
just
I
have
Can
to
you get
change.
another?
Negotiation point, they
You have to ask for an extension.
Yeah.
And that's when it gets kind of sticky, because that's when the seller gets nervous.
Right.
Okay, and that's when I said there are two principles in every transaction. It's up to us to make sure that as long as we're not pushing the envelope, we're moving forward. So we have loan, we have inspections. What else do we have as a contingency?
Appraisal?
I have a question about what you
Appraisal. Hold on for 1 second. Right, appraisal. Okay, appraisal contingencies usually goes hand in hand with the loan.
Right.
Because you can't get a loan without an appraisal if appraisal is not countered out. Okay, so Amanda, do you have a question?
Yeah, right now with COVID, so say there's, like you said, there's like a 10-day contingency, inspection contingency. Right now with COVID, is it taking longer for inspectors to come out right now, or it's about the same?
It's about the same. When
Okay.
COVID first hit, a lot of people were afraid to go out.
Okay.
And because of that, appraisers especially were doing drive-bys. They were leery of going in and out of properties. If the property was occupied, appraisers were asking the principals to leave while they were in there. And it's still kind of hairy, because according to the COVID guidelines, not more than 4 people are supposed to be in the property at one time. But things have kind of settled back in where, because business is busy right now, the vendors are out there in force all across the board.
Cool.
Thanks.
A contingency might be the sale of the buyer's home.
That, right, if it's a contingent sale, that could be a contingency as well. Okay, that they won't be able to close on this transaction unless their current home or property closes. What else can be a contingency?
A quick question, Peter. Do we count lead paint as a contingency or no?
I'm sorry, Sarah. Oops. Sorry, what
lead
was that?
paint, lead paint or termite or mold?
Okay, so that's not a contingency. Now, before the contract was rewritten a couple of years ago, there were boxes in there for the termite. You have to write the termite inspection in for it to be a contingency these days. Okay,
Oh,
the
okay,
new contract, you have to write it in if you want it part of the deal.
Okay. But we won't suggest that usually, do we or no?
It depends if it's written in. I
Okay.
mean, it all depends on if you, there are some empty boxes on I think it's page 2 or 3 that you can write in, seller to provide termite report and completion of all section 1 findings. You have to
Okay.
write that in, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. How about the prelim title report as being a contingency?
Right, of course.
Why is that important?
Gotta make sure there's no cloud on the title.
You want to make sure there's no clouds, no liens, no judgments, no litigation that can hold it up. You cannot change title. You cannot change hands on title if there's any clouds on it. It
Right.
must be clear in order to be able to move off of it.
No transfer.
There's another really important contingency. What is it? Seller disclosures.
Oh,
And it's a big one,
okay.
okay?
Oh, the
This-
material fact,
I'm sorry?
material fact that seller needs to let the buyer know.
Well, okay, Sarah, that's a good one, okay? The, I don't know if we can use the word material fact because the sellers fill out these disclosures to the best of their knowledge,
Right.
okay? So it's up to them to disclose what they actually know, okay? Now, I think you mentioned the word mold before. The seller doesn't know if it's mold or not, but he can say that there's been water intrusion in the main back bedroom and the wall is discolored.
Okay.
Now, we don't know if it's moss, mildew, fuzz, cat dander. We don't know, okay?
Okay. I see.
So the seller, when I have a listing, I tell the seller when I'm going through these to complete them to the best of your knowledge. Because if you know something, a material fact, and don't disclose it, for all
Yes,
intent and purposes, the seller is committing fraud,
Right.
that's true.
okay?
Okay.
So you have to tell your seller to disclose as much as they know, and this is important, objectively, not subjectively. But I don't use the word material fact, Sarah, because I'm not a contractor. I'm not a roofer. I'm not an electrician. I'm not a mold expert. So when I guide a seller, I tell them to be forthcoming. If you had earthquake damage, talk about it. If you know that there's a leak under the home, talk about it. If you know that the garbage disposal's not working, disclose that, okay?
Okay.
But don't say, oh, it's on its last legs, because you don't know,
You don't know.
okay?
Okay,
They don't know. So
That
the
makes
most-
sense.
the most important things, you know how we always talk about location, location, location? The
Yep.
same thing with your sellers, disclose to the, here it is, disclose to the best of your knowledge,
Okay.
okay? So
Thank you.
I don't know if that answers your question regarding material fact or not.
Yes, yes, you did.
Yeah, I
Thank
just
you.
know that for us, that's how it, that's how things have gone, okay?
Okay.
So-
Peter, you would have, as these disclosures are contingent upon these disclosures, and then the remedies for repair or changing that, those are negotiating points that you might.
Yes, yes. Now, I mean, if you find out, for instance, like when you get the transfer disclosure statement, that the roof is 30 plus years old, okay? And then when you get the seller property questionnaire, you're gonna go and see, when they say, have there been any leaks, any water damage, any water intrusion? You're gonna wanna find out, hey, how's the roof holding up?
Right.
Okay, and that's where you get into the give and take. And that's where it's important, like I mentioned before, you've got to continue to build up a rapport with the other agent so that you can discuss it. Hey, I noticed when I went on the side of the house where that big tree is, that there's a big lump or bump right next to the house and the concrete's unsettled. Are the roots going up under it? Have your sellers had any problems with displacement? We just want to know what they know. You're not expecting them to be, a tree guy. You're just trying to say, I noticed the concrete, around that area has been displaced. So you want to talk about that, okay? Other things that we want to negotiate on. How about the closing date?
Yeah, of course.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
You know, is your seller looking for a fast escrow? When, like before, I talk to a listing agent when I'm working with a buyer, I'll ask them, you know, so what's key for your client? Well, obviously he wants his price. What else? Shorten up the contingencies. You know, don't go further out than 30-day escrow. They want to be out of here. You know, they've got a house picked out. So you want to talk about that. Okay. And as you're moving along, you want to be able to know that as you get along, okay, you want to be able to say, you know, because you'll get an idea about deferred maintenance in the house as you've walked around it.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you start to do your inspections, you're going to know about that. But we'll get to that in a few minutes. Okay. We're moving on then, and we're going to talk about the 3 P's to your approach to presenting and negotiating. Prepare, present, and position. Okay. It's showtime for you. You've got to present that package. And like I said, you're going to get the offer, the pre-approval letter, the FICO scores, and the verification of funds. You're going to show that current bank statement. Okay.
What was the 3 Ps again? One more time.
Prepare, present, and position. Got it? Okay. Okay. So know your goal. Your goal is to get it accepted. Know your goal where you want to make it a win-win for both sides. So when you send that email back to the other side, okay, don't just say, here's our offer. Highlight some things. When I send the offer, you know, the first thing I do is go for the human element, how much my clients love it. They've been looking the moment they walked in here, this was it for them. Okay. But then I highlight, it's a full price offer. It's all cash, short contingencies. You know, we're in it to win it. We're here not to waste any time. And again, this is going to be the smoothest, easiest transaction you've had this year. Give some surety to how you're presenting to do your business. Okay. Make it so that the other agent and the seller want to do business with you. Make it such like that so that we're all working on the same page. Okay. Know your client. Whichever side, Mark?
No, just a quick question. When you say you highlight that, you highlight it verbally or with bullet points on the front page?
Bullet points. I do it bullet points in an email. And then when I also have a follow-up conversation, I reiterate it. Especially if I think it's really, really strong. Like if it's a flip and my client's coming in all cash, contingent free, I keep bumping away on that. Look, we're solid, we're all cash. He removed all his contingencies. Those are 3 of the big hot buttons right there. What your price is, all cash, and that that you're contingent free.
So when you take away, if you hypothetically take away contingencies, but still an inspection comes through and it's not just totally as is, like an inspection comes through and something different is out there, then you'd be like, hey, or just because you waived everything?
You've waived everything.
Right.
Wow.
Now, most flippers don't waste their money with an inspector. They walk through, they know what they're going to do. And if something comes up sight unseen, they're in it. But if you removed your contingencies, you can't go back and say, hey, we need a $10,000 price reduction based on what the inspections found. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Peter, it's Charlene Mariano. I have a
Hi,
quick
Charlene.
question.
Uh-huh.
If I have a buyer and I'm going to a home and the seller has it listed with it's as is, they're not going to fix a darn thing in this house, so don't even ask. Can I tell my buyer not to put these type of contingencies in there? It's an as is home.
Okay, so when I first started, there was as is versus warranted. Just because it says as is in the MLS doesn't mean they're not going to do anything. Okay, if it says as is and you go ahead and do your inspection and there comes out that something's a major fire hazard, okay, if your client cancels, guess what? They have an obligation to tell the next buyer why it canceled. Okay, If they do not, they are committing what's called torque, which means they are knowingly committing fraud. And I will tell you that real estate agents are E&O insurance does not cover fraud.
Right.
So you are fully exposed on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a fiduciary to disclose what you know. And if I'm the listing agent and we find something like that out, I look at my client and say, you're not going to get the price you want with the damage that we know now exists or the situation that now exists. I don't care. It is what it is. The sewer line is broken. You know, it's leaking. There's, you know, it's chopped up. I don't care. I want my price. Well, and I want to win the lottery. But, you know, the bottom line here is if you knowingly know something that's defective or deficient, you got to deal with that situation. But yeah,
And how do other realtors know this? Say that the appraisal came in lower. You know how they say, well, then it stays there for a while, so you're not going to be able to get your asking price because the appraisal came in low. And if we walk away, the next realtor knows that the appraisal is low.
Right, because they're going to say, why did the escrow bomb? Well, it didn't. The property didn't appraise.
So realtors know these things.
Yeah.
You gotta know.
Yeah. Well, you know, like if you're the listing agent and the deal goes bust because of the appraisal and the buyer and seller can't come to an agreement, and it goes bust, and I'm representing the buyer on the next deal and say, so what happened? Why to cancel? It didn't appraise.
That's it.
Okay, so then you ask the question, where's your seller at? Well, he didn't care, obviously, because we couldn't strike a deal. You know, and we'll get to the appraisal thing on Monday's session, by the way, because I'll break down how an escrow really works. And we'll talk about there are 3 options for an appraisal. Okay, and we'll get to how you can get around it and still through it, even if a property doesn't appraise out. So start to think ahead. Just don't stay in that moment on what you're dealing with, like with the appraisal. Think ahead. Be a problem solver. Be a problem solver.
Right.
Don't just become a loser and say, well, if this doesn't happen, it looks like the deal goes bust.
Right.
The deal goes bye-bye. I don't want you guys thinking like that. I want you to be of the mindset that you're going to help something happen. You're going to make it work. You're going to make it go. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Set expectations. First for yourself.
Yeah.
How are you going to handle your situation? Set expectations for your client, the one you're dealing with, whether it's the buyer or the seller. Okay, so here's where we're at. You wanted to come in low. I don't know if we're going to get it, but I'm going to do everything I can. Your client, well, at least get us a counter. That's the goal. I'm going to do everything I can to get you a counter offer. Okay, we're probably going to have to shorten up our contingencies. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, if you're on the other side representing the seller, give expectations. Look, I've talked to the other agent. They're going to start a little lower than full price, but he believes he can control his client to get them there. Okay, so we're going to want to do that. We're going to want to make sure that we keep this going. I have asked the other side to make sure that they give us some kind of response. And that's the best you can do. Especially if you're in a multiple counter situation, please give us a shot. We really want to make this work. Okay, I'm not saying to beg, but be professional and ask them how to do it. Stay informed. Ask the other agent, how do we look? Where are we at? What do you think we're going to need to do? Okay, one of my favorite questions, I know I say it all the time, is what's it going to take? It's a good question to ask. And you know what? A good other agent will tell you in their mind and opinion what they think it's going to take to make it happen. Okay, don't be afraid to ask.
Right.
We have 5 offers. You're probably number 3. And then you just say, well, what do we have to work on? My client's really motivated. They really want it. When you counter me, we'll get back to you. And I'm going to make this work. Now, be the little train that could.
Yeah.
Be the one that's there that's going to be able to make it work for you. Okay?
Peter.
Yeah. Mark?
just because I love what you're saying. I'm just curious. Does that ever happen before you actually put the offer out there? If you know the agent,
Absolutely. Even if I don't, Mark, I'm like,
you get an idea of the ballpark. Like that's what we're looking at.
yeah, I'm going to say, what do you think it's going to, hey, how you doing? Hey, I'm just letting you know we're thinking about writing. My clients love it. Oh my God, they love it. So what's it going to take? Well, it's going to take at least full price. And, so what's your client looking for? They looking for a short escrow? They looking for a long escrow? Do they have a place that they're already going to? On contingencies, are they hung up on shorter contingencies versus what's standard in the contract? Look, if you don't ask, you don't get. If you don't ask the questions, you're not going to get answers. So also, when you're doing that, you're also demonstrating to the other side, meaning the other agent, that you want to communicate. You want to be able to work the deal so that you can communicate and work different areas to make it work. Okay? So I think that that's really, really important, that we all work together to make sure that that's how we want to work with them, to be able to keep the negotiating going so that we can potentially make a deal. But I want you to be ethical. Don't do anything illegal.
Right.
And whatever you do, don't speak out of turn without your client knowing what you're going to talk about. Don't say something your client cannot do or will not do. And keep it legal, okay? And again, for those of you that took Dimitra's contract class, know that contract in and out. Take your time doing it. Practice doing a couple, role play. Take your practice doing it, all right? So as you're preparing then to negotiate, have your game plan in place. Know how you want to set the stage for how you want to be able to negotiate, because that's how you're going to present it. First thing you're going to do is call the other agent. I've got an offer for you. Still no other offers? Still no other offers, but I've got 2 people threatening. So your next question is, when are you presenting? Okay. You want to know the timing. So that way you're not a pain in the butt where you're calling every 10 minutes. You got an answer. You got an answer. No. We're not presenting until tomorrow, because that's when my client is available, okay? So make sure that you totally keep yourself going. And when you present, don't over-present it, whether it's over the email that you're sending it through or on the phone call that you make, okay? Let the offer speak for itself. Give the bullet point highlights, and then let the whole scenario play out. Let the deal come to you. You want to make sure that you're listening carefully for what the other side is telling you. And again, listen. They will probably mostly tell you what it's going to take to make it happen. Yeah. We were really hoping that you were going to come through with shorter contingencies. They like the escrow time. They love your price, but he wants to know in shorter time. So counter us. Work hand in hand with the other agent. Say, great, we'll stick to that. But if you want to shorten our contingencies, just counter me back on it. Or if there's something that needs to be countered out, maybe your client asked for all of the patio furniture in the offer. Well, that's my client's favorite furniture in the property. Then counter it out. So you want to get down to the nuts and bolts so that you understand it. Stay calm, stay poised. Again, the more you're doing that, the more you're going to upset the apple cart, because the other agent, no matter which side you're on, is also sizing you up. They're determining, can I work with this person for the next 30 to 45 days without me wanting to kill them? And it happens a lot. I mean, I just closed a deal late yesterday afternoon, and the first 10 days of the deal, I thought were going to be nothing but a problem. I constantly had to tell the other agent, I had to tell him to correct things on his offer. When I looked at it and I found out that he was representing his father, I told him in the offer, he must disclose he is related to the buyer. You by law must do that, okay? If you're a listing agent representing a relative, you must list that in the MLS that you are related to the seller, okay? You have an obligation. So it's up to you to stay calm. If they say, it doesn't really look good, don't start screaming back at them. And just say, can you give me an idea on what I have to fix or what it's going to take? Here I go again. What is it going to take? Let me go back to my client and see. We don't want to waste your time. Never make it about yourself saying, I don't want to waste my time with this. This sucks. Okay. It's all about the other side. How do I not waste your time? How do we make this happen? Okay. Focus on your client's needs and wants and wishes. They really, really want this house. And they just need to know, what does your seller want and need to make this happen? If it's on the other side and you're representing the seller, yeah, by all means, this is what they're thinking. They've got they're retiring. They're going to Scottsdale. They're moving to Arizona to one of those, Del Webb communities. They're as good as gone. They just want to make sure that they get their price. And to be honest, they don't really care who does it as long as they get their money. And now I've said it twice in the same sentence. So what the seller wants in that deal, okay? And then give your offer the best chance. Fill it out completely, even down to the other agent's information in that last box. It goes back to the first thing we talked about. Be the grown-up, be the professional in the room, okay? When you're presenting it, don't come off as nervous Nelly, okay? Come across as sure and confident, not cocky, but sure and confident on what you want to do, because you're now talking about positioning your deal, okay? You're positioning your client. And remember, it's not you that this offer is about. It's not you that is receiving this offer. You represent one of the superstars in the deal, whether it's the buyer or the seller. It takes two principals on every deal to make something happen. We're the sideshow. The escrow officer is just the referee. So acknowledge and confirm and affirm common ground. So we're good on contingencies. We just need to shorten our escrow period from 45 to 30. And you're thinking, what's it going to take on the price? Okay. Old school agent are 50-50. They'll tell you what they think it's going to take, or then they give you that crappy line. Look, I don't know. I'm not the seller. I can't speak for them. And those are the worst, because then you're dealing with a dinosaur in the industry. I can't tell you what it is. Okay. When I got into the business a little bit over 20 years ago, things changed. It's like, look, I don't want to waste your time. What is it going to take? Well, my seller wants at least full price. Okay. Do you have any other offers? No. So if I write full, does it look pretty good right now? I think it looks really good. Before my crew, they used to say, I can't tell you. I can't answer that. Now it's a different ball game. There's too much, jiving and deal making going on that you want to get it done. Don't be a game player. And don't piss off the other side, whatever you do. Don't go around the other agent. Yep. Mark?
In that note, in that vein,
Mm-hmm.
you submit an offer, you haven't heard anything. How much time goes by till you inquire and tap them like, hey, what's going on? How are we looking?
Well, I think the first thing that you're going to know is, when is the other side presenting the offer? So let's just say that they say, we're not looking for offers until Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. That's when we're presenting. So I don't think it's in your best interest to present or send your offer in on Sunday afternoon. If somebody tells you, and ask the listing agent, when are you presenting? When they talk to Peter Miller, I tell them point blank, I present as I get. I don't want to wait. I want to be in escrow, and so does my client. We're motivated. Now, there are some people out there that just say, let's wait a few days and see how many offers we get. Okay. I don't like that. I've never, ever been from that school or train of thought. It's just not me. If I get an offer, it's moving. I want to keep the situation fluid. I want to keep the situation going forward. Some people just feel, you know what, in this market, let's just see how many offers we can get, you know, and move it that way. So Mark, on that, every situation's different. So you ask the listing agent, when are you presenting? Now, why I also said is if they're not presenting until Wednesday night, that means there's a possibility of other offers coming in. So if you've stepped forward as the first one on Sunday and just sent in a full price offer with usual contingency periods on it, you're just going to be in there. I like to wait maybe until 24 hours before and maybe call on Tuesday and say, hey, look, I know you're presenting tomorrow night. Now where you at? Well, now we have 2 offers in. Because Sunday he didn't. Now he's got 2 offers in. How are they looking? Well, you know, Peter, I can't tell you, but, you know, if it's me, again, you know, one of them's full price and the other one's foolish. They came in low. And then I just say, so if we come in full price, will you be countering both of us? Well, you know what? This other offer is great. It's all cash. Contingencies are very short. Like I said, I'm one of those people, I like to be transparent. It's not being braggadocio. It's just, I want to keep the playing field as even as I can. I don't want anyone to ever come back to me and say, you know, you really ramrodded me or you didn't give us a fair shot. Right. So I'm not giving away the family jewels, but I am saying, I'm asking that the what's and the how's, or what's it going to take? How are we looking? You want to be able to move things along like that. Why? Because you want to be able to know your position in the process.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions on that? I know I just kind of jumped around a little bit, but do you kind of see how I'm setting the stage on this to try and get, again, the good, the bad, and the ugly? Where are we at? If you've sent your offer in on Sunday, sometimes being the first one in sets the stage, because that listing agent, remember, if they're telling you what's going on, they're probably telling the other agents as well to strengthen their position with their client. Okay. And yeah, it's a little bit of a game and I think it's crappy, but they do it. Okay. Did that help, Mark?
Yeah, very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else on that before we kind of move into a little bit about positioning in the process?
I have a question. If you're representing the seller and you present on that Wednesday night and you decide on one and you reject the others, and then the one that you did decide on, what do they have to do? What if they decide to pull out? And that's one offer we did want to go with.
Well, I'm usually pissed off at that point. Charlene, it happens. It happens. That's why, you know, a lot of times you get offers where they're so over the top and you just say to yourself, this isn't real. You know, they're going to then work backwards the moment they get into escrow. So I asked the question, let's just say that I'm going to present at about 6 o'clock on Wednesday and I'm looking at 3 offers. I usually make the call on Wednesday afternoon about 3 o'clock and just say, hey, I'm giving you a heads up. You really look strong. There's 2 other great offers. You're really in it, right? If you get it, you are going to go through with this because, and then you know what I say, Charlene? I don't need my client giving me any crap about, you know, encouraging them to take an offer that's going bye-bye. Okay, that's why I accept no blind offers, by the way. That's why on anything, I never accept a blind offer. I just don't. Okay, I just don't do that for that exact reason, because that's where the game playing starts, and that's where it happens. Okay. Anyone else? We good on that? Did that answer? So yeah, I do try and go back, especially if I know if I'm going to get into a multiple. don't make me look bad, because if you make me look bad, you're not going to get a second chance the next time around on it. Because you know if they're doing it this time, that they're one of those agents that will do it another time. Okay? Lastly on that is know when to walk away. And that's a really tough one, guys.
Yeah.
If your client is not willing to kind of move with the times of what the other agent is telling you what it's going to take, you need to take that deep breath and go back to your client and say, look, if we're not going to step up to this, it's not going to happen. And that's kind of the tough thing. Okay. So you have to kind of look at it that way. Okay. So you're going to want to do that. Let's just make sure that we know our roles and stay in your lane. Don't start saying, well, I want to talk to your seller, because I don't think that, you know, you've really explained how great my people are. And you're going to get agents like that. You're going to get agents that are going to cross the line. I've had agents in the past, believe it or not, that while they've sent an offer in, and if the property's on lockbox, they go back trying to engage with the seller to tell them how great their clients are. Okay. Now they are breaking your agency, by the way, when they do that. And that's why I was saying, that's why sometimes real estate agents have the same reputation as a car salesman and a snake oil salesman. Yeah. They will try and do shit to get in there, to get their client the potential deal. So just be careful of that. Yeah. And, you know, because your client's going to be able to do that. You're then going to get into that counter offer situation. Make sure you understand the counter. Don't just blow through it and say to get your client to sign it. Make sure that you go point by point to know, so that you can present each position. And then you're going to get the dreaded best and final, which means they're not giving you a price. They're telling you what to put in. The very first call I make is to the lender, and say to the lender, how high can we go? Not your buyer, because your buyer could be a conservative person. The lender's going to be the one to tell you how high up the ladder they can go on price, because they're doing the loan. Then you turn around and your second call is to, not your client, the other agent. The other agent. Look, what's it going to take? It's going to go. A good agent will say, look, I don't think it's going to appraise more than 750. So I think if you go over that, we're going to have a potential problem. But then I'll say, but I believe 739 is probably a good number. I try and help them a little bit. Yeah. But if I say, yeah, right, 775, you got to know, because it's not going to appraise out. And if you have an appraisal contingency in there, it's just going to get kicked back to you anyway. Okay. So again, work with the other side, create that scenario so that you fully understand where you're at with it. Okay. You want to be able to make that such to make it happening, because then you're putting it all together. Okay. And by now, through this process, you've developed this really good rapport with the other agent. Okay. And at this point, the other agent is going to be one of two things. Damn, I really want to work with Eric on this. Or, but damn, that's Charlene. She's pretty good. She's been really upfront. And Sarah, you know, Sarah's been just, she's amazing. Her clients look so strong that, you know, Amanda, every time I call her, she's always available. And keep score of that, by the way. How difficult is the agent to get in touch with? Because know this, if you're having difficulties with the agent negotiating the deal, you can only imagine what's going to happen when you need to talk to him every day during the deal. Right. Okay. So you want to be that agent that's always phone available. Yeah. Now, those of you that are in my training group know that from 6 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, I respond on the spur of the moment, because I get the adrenaline rush. I know. And look, 22 years later, guys, I still get the adrenaline rush. I do. And if you don't, get out. Don't be in this business, because
Right.
that means you don't care. Okay, I want you to have the passion where you feel it every single deal. And I don't care if it's a $350,000 condo or a $10 million apartment building. I want you to feel that surge, that emotion of, okay, man, this is it. It's showtime. Okay, where you're working it. Okay, be part of the action, because the more part of the action is, the better of a student in the game you're going to be. And most importantly, the more of a top producer you're going to be. Okay, be a deal maker. Don't be a deal breaker. Be available, because I'll tell you, the other side is keeping score. I keep score every deal. I do. And when I get I'll say it, when I get an offer from certain agents, I'm like, this is fucking great. Excuse the French, but this is freaking great. Okay, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And I know that if I get an offer from Stacy Smith, that it's going to be a home run. She was great to work with 2 years ago. Okay, I just know that she handled her client beautifully, and we closed in 28 days instead of 30. She delivered. You want the agents to be able to know how they can work with their client. You want to be able to do that. Okay, so you've got to be able to juggle things around, because a good agent is not going to come and just contact with an agent once in their career. An agent that does business is going to be in the wheelhouse several times over. Okay, and it's your reputation on the line. And yeah, there are a lot of people that will say, God, you know, that Peter, he's tough, he's rigid, but he closes.
Right.
And you don't get paid until you close. You can sell a home, you can get it in escrow, but the key to the deal is closing it. And that's what I really want you all to remember as you're negotiating. Keep your eye on the ball. Know what the end result is. And in the back of your mind, I don't care what anyone says, know what that check's going to be. You've worked your butt off. Okay, but you know, when you close that deal in 22 days and you get that $67,000 check, you've earned it, because you delivered on what you promised. You're only as good as your word. And I want you to all keep that in mind. As you negotiate, keep moving forward. Don't go backwards. Keep moving forward. And you're going to, look, every deal's going to have a hiccup. How are we going to get through this? Let's work together to make it happen. Questions? Mark? Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Sorry about that.
You're okay.
On the appraisal stuff, I have a question. If you're the listing agent, before you hit the MLS, other than doing your own market research and knowing about, you know, similar homes and this and that in the area, do you ever get an official appraisal yourself? Like, just do it because you want the actual verified before you get to the whole?
Do you know how much, Dan, how much an appraisal is?
$500.
How much?
I was gonna say 300. I was gonna say 300.
300, 500. Keep going. I just had an appraisal done that was $2,700.
Wow.
It was an 18-unit apartment building. So the answer is no, I'm not paying for appraisals up front. Here's what, Mark, let me ask your question, because we work together. You're in my group. When you get that first listing, you and I will be working together to pick the value of the home. That's why listing agents are the ones that meet the appraiser, not the buyer's agent. Even though it's the buyer getting the loan, okay, and the loan is the one that needs the appraised value, you as the listing agent are the one that goes and meets the appraiser to show them how you came to that price. So when I go and meet an appraiser, which I am going to do in 45 minutes, I have 16 comps that validate the sales price that we're at.
I see.
And then I do my song and dance by first line. Oh, this is going to be the easiest one you did all week. This is a no-brainer. And the appraisers that I know over the years laugh at me and go, come up with a different line already. But I've given them 16 MLS sheets closed. I lead in with the property that's pending. our property. And then I'll probably also put in, Mark, 2 or 3 others, whether active, under contract, or pending, to show them the fluid action in that price range in the immediate area. Okay, now I know that it's 11 o'clock. Let me just answer that real quick. Appraisals used to be no more than 90 days old with a 1-mile radius. When the business went upside down, we were allowed to go 6 months out and just keep it in the same zip code.
Oh.
Okay, right now, if it's a tough thing, hey, Zach, good morning. Nice to see you there, buddy. Now, I use that, I go 6 months out sometimes, especially with my new projects, because it's new and sometimes we're setting the price range of what we're doing there. Did that answer you?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, completely.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, guys, have a great weekend. We have, now just know this for number 11. Number 11, I might do from the team room because I need the dry board, because I'm actually going to take you from the offer to closing. So the entire hour I'm going to spend on an actual transaction for you to show you how everything puts into place. And I'm gonna shoehorn each segment of the transaction so that you understand it. Okay? So have a great weekend. I'm turning it over to the magnificent Zach, because I think you're up now, right, buddy?
I'm up. Thank
Joanne.
you so much.
Thank you. Bye,
Thanks,
Peter.
Good day.
Have a great weekend. Hi, Joanne. How are
Thanks,
you?
Peter.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.